This episode of the Flush Podcast is brought to you by Federal Premium Ammunition and by Onyx Hunt, the #1 GPS hunting map app. Onyx, know where you stand. Today I'm joined by one of the best dog trainers in the entire country. Sonny Piekarz owns Hay Creek Kennel in Gilman, Wisconsin. His motto is to create low-pressure, high-energy, positive training to instill confidence in dogs and owners. His formal training is based off of the Huntsmith silent command system. Sonny has a wealth of dog training knowledge that we can all benefit from, but on this show, we're going to help you create a positive relationship with your dog to help set it up for a lifetime of success. Welcome to another episode of the Flush Podcast. I'm Travis Frank. I'm your host, and Brandon Morton is once again, as always, our producer. Sonny Piekarz is my guest today. Sonny, I've wanted to have you on this show for a long time because I've talked to a lot of hunters and dog trainers over the years, and they've all had nothing but great things to say about you and your dog training skills. So thank you for taking the time today to hop on this show.
Glad to be here.
Well, as I think you know, my dog training mentor is George Lyle, and you and George have quite a bit of history. Is that correct?
That is correct. Yep.
How did you meet that man?
I'm not even going to say how many years ago, but it was at a Rick Smith Foundation seminar in Rhinelander, Wisconsin. So it's got to be close to, I'm going to say 20 years ago.
Gotcha.
And we've maintained a relationship and pretty much been friends ever since.
Gotcha. Well, George uses the Huntsmith silent command system that you train with, which is what he has taught me. And now a lot of the friends that I know that have puppies, they're using that as well. Can you explain, kind of give our listeners an overview of what this training system is?
Well, everything that I'm currently doing today, I would say, is inspired by the Huntsmith silent command system, and most of it has been for me from Rick. Where we've gotten it today is kind of a low pressure, high energy format that for me is really more importantly working with the people than the dogs. Over the years, the dogs get easier and the people get harder. So it really is about trying to help the human interact and understand the world according to the dog.
How long have you been training dogs?
This is 2000 was our first year professionally. Gotcha.
And you also offer guided hunts in the fall, is that correct?
Yeah, we've got a Hay Creek Kennel outfitter, and we Montana, Wisconsin, and then primarily my biggest part of it is in South Texas for the winter, January, February, and this year we're going to be doing a good part of November and all of December.
Gotcha. So your kennel is based out of, it's Gilman, Wisconsin, is that correct?
Yep, Gilman, Wisconsin, yep.
And it sounds like you're not there very often.
We're here from now. Right now, our season starts, dogs come in tomorrow, and then we're here the whole summer, and then we start to travel mid to late September. And we're back from South Texas first part of March. We just take some mental health time and then start all over again, do it again for another year.
Now, because this is something that you obviously you enjoy, it's a passion, has training to this level taken the joy out of it for you, or do you still find joy in what you do?
No, I still find a lot of joy. I love working with the baby puppies, developing baby puppies. So yeah, there's a lot of joy. Needless to say, I do not set an alarm clock.
Gotcha. Well, you brought up puppies, and I think, you and I, we were talking the other day, and I feel like, there's just so much that we can dig into when it comes to training dogs. But I think it's important to really focus on where everything starts, right? That foundation, that relationship that you build with your dogs. So before we get into talking about just puppies, can you teach an old dog new tricks? Like, is it ever too late to work on the foundation with your dog?
No. The negative is you only have X amount of years left, based on the age of the dog. But no, my experience has been there is no age that you can't start and accomplish a bunch of things.
Gotcha. Well, on the other side of it then, is there ever a point where it's too soon to start training with the dog?
No, absolutely not. We are starting training just as soon as we can get our hands on them. So if we whelp the puppies, we're starting stuff at a day old, and the research and some of the stuff that I've been learning. There's even things that are happening within the womb that is imprinting and can develop puppies. So no, there is no age that's too young.
Gotcha. So when people say, well, they're just a puppy, let them be a puppy, and then, maybe next year we're going to start the formal training, what are they missing out on if they wait?
Yeah. So in my opinion, that's a huge mistake. So, from the world, according to me, if spend as much time as you can spend with them, and then keep in mind that when you are spending time with them, whatever it is they're doing is what they're learning, and you're the one doing the teaching. So I try to maintain just discipline over myself to, when I am going to be with them, try to teach them something. Be excellent, be fair, be efficient, and just try to teach. Now, that doesn't mean that we don't play with them and have fun with them, because we do. But we do try the time that we spend with them, we want it to be quality time, based on structure, rules, discipline. Even though they might be, just a little bitty baby, the rules still need to apply to some extent.
So let's take it from the top then, if you don't mind. What do you start out with when you've got a puppy and you start the training? What does that look like for you?
Well, for me, I try to basically take over where the puppy's mother left off. So back to those boundaries, some structure, some discipline. Big picture to the most important thing that I have with puppies is just to have them be still. And that's more of a mental thing than it is a physical thing. Mentally have their mind still. When their mind is still, they can be open for instruction, so they're much easier to teach. So that's a big part of what I try to accomplish. And along with that, a lot of different scenarios, different outings. Nobody loves to hear the word stress, stress your puppies, but in reality, that is what we're doing. Different situations, from spending time, in the dog trailer, to being in the kennel, to being maybe in a whelping pen, to making a visit to town, going to the post office, going to the hardware store, separating them, bringing them back together, just anything and everything that we can expose them to, on the ranger, off the ranger, going for a walk, water exposure. We do a lot of different scenarios to expose them to different things as babies.
And your goal there is just to create a well-balanced dog that can really adapt quickly to any real-life situation?
Absolutely. Yep.
Gotcha.
And that's where I don't foresee myself, I'm not a trainer anymore. I'm more of a teacher or a mentor. So it's about showing the puppies anything and everything that they're going to experience later in life, and then try to help them, mentor them through everything that is going to stress them.
Gotcha. So we had an interesting conversation the other day, and you brought this up, and I want to talk about it because I think it's extremely important. You said that in your career, you've seen a change in the relationship that people have with their dogs. And you said, I believe, I'm not trying to put words in your mouth, but that it in a lot of ways, it can be unhealthy for the dog, right? What is that? Yeah. What is the change that you've seen?
That I don't know that I've got it 100% pegged yet. But I will probably say the people tend to be selfish. And this is every day I'm trying to learn more to help the people. So, the people are selfish as far as I'm concerned, based on wanting to take from the puppy, but not wanting to give things back to the puppy. And the puppy needs, structure, boundaries, rules, discipline. So maybe today they're more of a pet, more of a fur baby. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but I don't know that it's necessarily the best thing for the puppy. So a lot what we've done training wise and how we've rebuilt the facility has been to help the people where the people are at with their view of their puppy today. So it's just a different individual than it was, say, 20 years ago, as far as the people that are working with the dog. It used to be we might have, one individual own 5 or 6 dogs, and at the end of the day, he was hoping, basically to have the best out of those 5 or 6, and then turn the other 2 into somebody's house pet. Today, the individual gets a dog, and it is going to be their dog for life. It is more of a family pet, big part of the big picture with their kids, and I got no problem with it. I think it's a good thing, but we've lost connection with really who the animal, what drives the animal, what the animal is, what their end game is.
What is the animal's end game? What should drive them?
Well, I think food, or as crazy as this might sound, food, sex, and danger. They want to eat and they want to reproduce, and with doing those 2 things, they can end up in trouble. With maybe interacting with another pack, maybe interacting with other individuals, with other dogs. So, back to their their end game is they're a little more primal, and we tend to not see them as being a dog or an animal. We tend to see them as our fur babies that want to spend time with us and enjoy us. And in reality, that's not necessarily how they see it all the time.
So what's a healthy way for that dog to learn from their owner?
Structure and some boundaries and some discipline, being fair and efficient. Maintaining control over your own emotion is probably the absolute biggest thing. Not to get overly excited, but then not to get overly upset. Just try to maintain being in the middle, and instruct and teach and mentor without a lot of emotion coming into the big picture.
I think most people would probably chuckle to themselves hearing that, because that's got to be one of the hardest things as a dog owner that you can do, is to just stay flatline there, right? To not be too far one way or another. And it's funny because when I first started training, that's the first thing George Lyle told me, is to try to take the emotion out of it and just, be calm through this whole thing. And he laughed and he goes, I've been trying for 30 years. So just take it easy on yourself. You will make the mistakes, but, and I keep trying to go back to that because I think it's so important. And I've learned myself just the importance of staying calm there. But he said, he kept going back to you and Rick and Ronnie, and he just would say, how you guys are able to stay calm. So, Sonny, what are some tricks that you've learned that help you to stay calm in the chaos of, the training and anything that can go wrong with the dog?
The first thing is, if and when something does go wrong and you can't control that emotion, just quit, get away, take a break, go do something else for a few minutes, and then try to come back at it. Try not to push through it. Just take a break and get away. That's important. And then for me, because I've had the same emotion and the same excitement that everybody else has had, but to do it professionally, it's about trying to make some money, and if you make mistakes, it costs you money. So I maintain it just by trying to do it for a living, and then the byproduct of what I've seen, my emotional connection and how I interacted with the dogs. Once I got control of that, well, the whole relationship was different. It was just a completely different relationship with the animal. It was amazing. It made my hair just stand up. It was so much deeper of a relationship. Now, I did lose a little bit of the emotional connection, but it was so much more dog-like. It was almost like the dogs allowed you to be part of their world. So that was quite the experience.
Well, and that's they're a pack animal, right? So they're looking to you as their leader, and to have this healthy relationship, you need to be a good leader, right? Or we need to be good leaders.
Yes, being fair and efficient, and if you're not going to lead, they are. And typically, with the baby puppies, which we all get, they're just not mentally prepared to deal with that task. They just don't have it. So of course they start making decisions on their own, and a lot of those decisions can be bad because we're not there to teach.
So you teach, I would you say that your specialty would be the pointing dog breeds?
Yeah, that's how it started. But where we're at today, we work basically anything, whether it be Shih Tzu, Saint Bernard. I mean, anything that comes through, we work. And it really isn't, there's not much difference in the program. I work with the house pets the same exact way as I would work with my highest of high-end bird dog, dog that I use on my own personal guide string. It's basically the same exact program. And it's really nothing more than building a relationship with the animal to trust you, not unnecessarily on a loving relationship, but more of a fair and efficient, respectful relationship. And once you have their mind open to learn based on a good working relationship, you can teach them things literally in maybe even in seconds, not even minutes. They're so open to learn once there's a working relationship where they have some respect for you. And the respect is not, for me, it's not based on trying to dominate them. It's trying to teach them, opening up their mind to learn and build confidence. So we build a lot of confidence through accomplishment. That's a big part of what we're doing today is building confidence through accomplishment. So back to that stress, we might put them in stressful situations with what we have now is what would look like agility equipment. So it's hard, it's steep, it's narrow, slippery. And then based on accomplishment, we build confidence. And that's a big part, that's the hub of my program today.
When you say you build confidence, I know a lot of people that, I've seen a lot of different methods, right? A lot of people, they want to include treats. Some people say no. To build that confidence, how do you reinforce after a dog does something that they did a good job and that good, to just so they know that they did it right?
So to back that up just a little bit, so we start the process with building a point of contact with a command lead, which if you've hung around George, you have a pretty good idea what that is. And it's basically being able to communicate to the animal through the lead based on touch. So we build the point of contact based on touch, and then we challenge the point of contact with agility or a challenge. And then as they accomplish the challenge, based on how we're touching them, the real reward isn't necessarily coming from me. It's coming from them through their accomplishment. So how we reward the desired behavior is almost just being neutral. Not a lot of excitement, but then not a lot of anger. So it's very, very neutral, very, very slow. Some more words would be methodical, very quiet. Showing a lot of compassion. So that is my overall demeanor when I am working with, whether it be, young dog, old dog, it doesn't matter, just the dog. And then through touch is where they really do feel that praise.
That's what I've been using. George passed this on. I mean, it's the Huntsmith training or Huntsmith silent command training system. So we're using similar techniques or the same. I've not trained with you, but based on what I've learned through this system, once my dog Daisy, once she accomplishes something, and she stops, I walk up there, I just rub the side of her legs or her back and don't say anything. And that's her way of knowing, okay, all right, I did it right. And is that what you're saying by the touch part of it? Yeah,
that's yes, that is. Now there's a bunch that does come with it. But yeah, primarily that is what happens. The touch, the acceptance, the acknowledgement. There's a bunch that goes on there with when you're in a dog's personal space, and are they receptive to you being in their personal space? Do they embrace the fact that you're there? Are they fearful of you? There's a bunch of things that can go on, and then that's what we're working with, to try to put them mentally in a spot to where they do embrace our touch and they do enjoy being with us, because the more that they can embrace it, the more open they are to learn. And that's the program.
Got it. Okay, so we touched on this right away. There's so much to talk about, but you mentioned it starts by getting them to stop. Once they stop, they think. So let's go back to almost the beginning here, to developing this foundation. How do you get the dog to stop, whether it's an 8-week-old or a 2-month-old or a 6-month-old or a 12-month-old? What's your technique?
Giving them something to follow. So that's us. Baby puppies, it's just seconds. I mean, their attention span is zero, but it's giving them something to follow. So if I'm still, they're still. If I move, they move. With baby puppies, those workouts are extremely short. Seconds of just being still for a second, and then as we move, try to encourage them to follow with a lead, and then just as time goes on, it gets longer. A lot of table work with just our hands on the baby puppies, just physically handling, touching the baby puppies, and teaching and mentoring how to be still.
Gotcha. Well, can you explain that when you set a dog on the table? What's going through your mind? What's going through the dog's mind?
Well, the dog wants to interact, jump, play. That's just natural for the dog. What I try to do is just literally relax my own mind and my own body to give them something to follow. So the calmer that I am, the quieter that I am, they tend to just follow that. Picking them up and setting them down, we'll take their feet out from underneath them so there is no place they can go once they're picked up. Set them back down, and as soon as they relax, you turn the pressure off, and they'll embrace it. They learn from it. And there again, that's the touch. They don't understand English, so to try to talk to them at that age doesn't make any sense. So we're trying to communicate based on how we touch, whether it be our hands, whether it be a lead. There's just multiple things that we can use to communicate to them.
Once they stop, puppy, maybe it's just a second or two, right? How do you reinforce that's a positive thing?
But for me, it's then movement. So then we'll move them around on the table. Maybe even play with a ball. Play with a toy. The prey drive kicks, and they want to chase it, and then from there take that away, and then go back to having them stop again. And then as soon as you get a 1 count or a 2 count of being still, we'll then loosen them up to move again. And they instantly will learn what it is you're wanting.
Gotcha. So when you get this puppy, it starts right there. You get them to stop. Now you take it into the next stages. How many stages do you typically have, or what's your progression with a puppy from that point?
If you can get the puppy to be still and go with you, you've pretty much accomplished 99% of what has to happen. So if you get the baby puppies to be still and follow you at a baby puppy, they'll do it for life. And everything hinges on that. Everything is connected to that. The going with is nothing more than them paying attention. So it's not necessarily a turn left, turn right. It's just go with, pay attention to what it is I'm doing and follow. So it's way more of a mental thing than it is a physical thing.
Gotcha. So I got my puppy last year, right at the end of August, early September, and she was already just about 6 months old when I got her. So I missed 6 months of training with her, and she developed her own habits. She lived in a completely different atmosphere. But I can tell you, Sonny, I don't know if George has told you any of the stories, but I had a bold dog with incredible prey drive that wants to run big. And I had to basically take her, and we had to build from scratch to form that relationship. And I feel like I missed out on so much, because you talk about, if you get that puppy to follow you, to go with you, you've got that for life. Well, she already developed her own habits. I had to take them out and say, no, we're doing this together. What's your advice for somebody that gets a puppy or a dog like I did, where later on in life, and where do you want to start at that point?
Do exactly what you did with starting over as a puppy. They accept that almost instantly. They're happy to start over. What would the words be? They embrace it. because now they do have a good leader and they want to follow. They naturally want to follow. So their learning is accelerated when you start over. There's nothing lost with that whatsoever. Now they'll buck back a little bit and they might protest a little bit because they do have their own system and they like the way their system is working.
Mm-hmm.
But once the connection is made and you've got the relationship going, they're very, very easy to teach.
Yeah, I've been amazed at just how far she's come over time and the repetition. Is there ever a point in a dog's life that you say, nope, good to go, I don't need to train with this dog anymore? Or do you, I mean, I imagine they learn so much and you don't have to spend as much time with them, but do you ever stop the training?
No. And the training really isn't training. It turns into a way of life. So for me, interacting with my own personal dogs, it's not, the training doesn't really ever end, but it's not really training. It's just based on how we live. It's based on what we do. So I'm with them 7 days a week. They're doing stuff with me 7 days a week. And there really wouldn't be any what anybody would see as training. It's just how we interact. Examples might be if they're taken to free run just for exercise, I'm going to be turning left, maybe turning right to get them to follow. So it's not, yes, it is a free for all, but the free for all still has some rules and some boundaries. No different if you take a dog to the dog park. Yes, it is a little bit of a free for all, but there still has to be rules with the free-for-all. So we might get to the dog park and there we go back to the stopping or the being still. Be still at the gate or be still coming out of the car, coming out of the truck. And then from there, I cut you loose and then you need to go with. So if I want to go to the right, you need to go to the right. If there's, a scenario that I don't want you involved with or need to pull you out of, I can turn a direction and get you going with. So it just turns into a way of life, The no barking, the being still when I go to feed you, being still when I go to handle you or touch you or groom you or trim your nails. It just is a way of life.
I've noticed very much what you're saying with my dog because we have these rules in place. And I always kind of in my mind wonder, she loves to play in the backyard with my kids. She doesn't run away now, but she is curious because she has this strong prey drive. So she's smelling, there's birds, there's rabbits, squirrels, whatever. There's a raccoon that came by the other day. She's got all of these smells and she's curious, but she knows we're not hunting, we're not working. I'm always wondering at what point do I need to give her that freedom? And then how much should I be able to give her? Is there a recipe for that?
It's based on the age of the dog. That's a part of it. So, that 2-year-old dog is a teenager. That 3-year-old dog is probably coming into some maturity. If there's been good rules and a good relationship established from day one, everything comes considerably easier. But for me, there never is 100% freedom or where I'm not going to pay attention because that is when they are going to get in trouble. So I'm trying to maintain some kind of order throughout their whole life, right to the point where they're retired. Just trying to maintain those boundaries.
So I want to talk about the silent command and the point of contact. But before I do, and the reason that I'm bringing this up is because we're talking about the freedom that we can give a dog. A lot of people that have dogs that don't live out in the country, maybe they're in a neighborhood, they maybe have an invisible fence or now there's wireless fences where once your dog gets to that certain distance, they're going to get that electric jolt if they've got the collar on. Now you train with the point of contact, and does that interfere with the training method to have a dog that's trained that they know when the collar is a constant pressure, they stop. If it's tap, tap, they turn. If it's tap, 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 they come back to you. Now, if you add the underground fence and it's a shock, does that change any of the training? Is that a bad thing to have?
Nope. My experience has been if the dog understands the rules and the boundaries with the fence or with the collar, it's all situational. So there's absolutely no problem with that whatsoever. I've had really good luck with my clientele and yard fences. Now there has been some disasters, starting dogs, whether they might be too young or just not a good understanding of what to do. So they will freeze up, maybe in that zone with that yard fence, or they will run through it. And then my clients will come back with, they're so determined to get out that they just run through it, or they get stuck in the zone and they're sitting there with the stimuli going off. I don't believe that that's what's happening. I don't believe that the dogs are trying to defeat us or just, muster up enough courage to run through it. They've just not been taught what the rules are. So we've had really good luck with that without any misunderstanding from the dog whatsoever. It's all situational. They know the situation and they know what to do, but they need to be taught first.
Yep.
And that goes back to being still so that they can learn. Mentally be still so I can teach.
Gotcha. Do you have an age when you introduce the e-collar? Or an age that I would say, is it too early to introduce at a certain point? Or do you base that on the progression of the dog, each individual dog?
It's each individual dog. Their mental state is a big part of it, and then their maturity. So my personal dogs tend to mature faster, and that happens from them just not being as much of a pet to me. They're more of a working dog, so they do mature faster. So with that being said, each dog is different, and we will go ahead and apply that collar pressure or transfer those points of contact based on how they're doing. That 6-8 month old puppy, I might have my foundation sometimes maybe even complete, but I might not use it until maybe that second season, to where we're going to formally really finish the process.
Gotcha. Do you think I made a mistake by hunting my dog last year at 6 months old?
Absolutely not. We get them out there just as fast as we can. So this year we had a whole crew of baby puppies in South Texas. They showed up there, the youngest puppies probably being 8-9 weeks old. Had another group of puppies that I'm going to say probably was 13-14 weeks old. And by the time we left South Texas at the end of the season, those older puppies were, running, handling, pointing, backing, their own cubbies of birds. So, no, I don't think there's a too young to start them. Now, cover and things can dictate that to overwhelm them, but as long as you're putting them in situations that they can handle and learn from, I think it's all positive.
Yeah, I really noticed when I had Daisy out in cover that shorter grass where I can watch her, and I think you build this relationship with your dog that you can almost anticipate what they're going to do, right? So I would say, oh, she's going to do, and I could see her, and we could stop, and I'd walk up to her and redirect her, or make a command for her. But if she gets in that thick stuff or cattails, or, thick brush, I can't see her. That's where I feel like I really struggled the most. And I think you can tell me if I'm wrong here, but I think as she experiences it more and more, I'll be able to develop more trust in her to do the right thing without me being involved, correct?
Absolutely. And that's where the real go with comes from, when you can trust them to actually go without having to manipulate them to do it. So yes, that the cattails, that is a major challenge. Heavy cover, lots of brush, lots of trees, those are all major challenges. And I try not to put those dogs in those situations unless I do have good points of contact. And then as they mature and grow and really learn the rules, now those points of contact, they're almost never used. So that dog goes into that cattail slough or gets behind some trees in South Texas, and you're expecting them or needing them to, show to the front and maybe to the left. Yeah, with time, they are to the front and to the left, right where you need them. So the trust is there. And that trust could be, at 50 yards in the grouse woods, or, maybe 450 yards in South Texas. Same dog can do the same job and still go with you.
Is there a certain point in a dog's life where all the dogs you've worked with over the years, is there, if somebody is working and putting in all this time and seeing the results, is there a point where that dog should reach their absolute peak potential? A point
I
in their
believe
life,
so.
I should say. Like,
Yeah,
is there
I believe
on
so.
average, is it 2 years, 4 years old, 1 year, 1.5? I mean, what would you say on average is this is when your dog is probably going to be at their very best?
If my experience has been they continue to learn and they continue to perform. I think when they do reach their peak or when they get past their peak is when their body starts to maybe break down a little bit. I think each year they just keep getting better, and then of course as they hit that 6 or 7 or 8 or 9, when they're some arthritis maybe will set in or their body starting to break down a little bit. I think that's when they start to change. But up until that point, I think they continue to keep learning and they keep thriving. But if you're really looking at a number, I would say for me and what I've experienced with my own personal dogs and the dogs that I've worked, they probably that 5 to 6, maybe even 6 to 7 is where they're really at their peak of their performance.
Gotcha. I can see from when I got Daisy at 6 months to where she is at 12 months. It's like I have two completely different dogs. And I had a
Yeah.
lot of people that saw this wild dog. I mean, we were out in the Badlands and she ran 1.5 miles away. I mean, she just ran through every possible command. Her prey drive is so strong. She wants to go. And this dog would not hunt with us, would not stay around, wanted to just sprint as far away as fast as she possibly could. And it happened several times. And I had people say over and over, you can pull a rope back, you can't push it. Just trust the process. Trust the process. Well, now I'm seeing the results of it, and I can't wait to get back out in the field with my dog. We went this spring before the birds got on nest and just took her out, and just her instincts took over. And it goes back to the foundation that you talk about all the time, that George talks about all the time, that people that use this training method, they don't focus on the dog's instinctive ability to hunt. It's that dog knows how to hunt. It's mom and dad gave it that instinct. You need to teach that dog the foundation on how to hunt with you. And then everything else takes care of itself.
Yep. Because that when she was that age and she was running, that mile or whatever it might be, there's a lot of frustration for those dogs, and they're running just to run. Basically, the wind is just whistling through their ears, and it's due to there's nobody there that's fair and efficient. There's nobody there that is that good leader. So now you're seeing, 6 months later, and you're starting to see this magic. It's because you've done your part, and that's where you're giving something back. You're giving her something to follow. So now she has you there to trust. Therefore, now she can focus, and that's where you're starting to see the magical stuff happen. And that's the kind of stuff that makes my hair stand up when you start to hit those breaking points to where you can see the improvement and you can see the real dog start to pop.
Mm-hmm. I've still seen a lot of it's so special, and I've seen some of the amazing skills, which I think my dog has. But I've also, the next day I go out into a field, similar situation. There's another dog there. And all of a sudden it's like I have a completely different dog again. Like, what happened? I know you're still a puppy and we've got a lot to learn yet. And it's a process, but is it pretty typical for a dog to run a field differently when there's another dog out there? That is there competition in their mindset?
Absolute competition, yes. So they will start to compete amongst each other, and probably if they were left alone long enough, they would form their own pack. There's going to be a number 1 and there's going to be a number 2, and throughout that process, you kind of just got bumped right out. And I think that's a very natural, normal thing, just because they're a dog and we're a human. So yeah, there's a lot of competition. And then for me, I allow a lot of that stuff to happen. So I'm not the guy that's going to, get down on them or try to stop it. I try to allow that stuff to happen. And I try to allow it to play out so they can learn what the rules are. No different than, coming up on a deer or say a South Texas hog, off game. I try to allow them to have the experience rather than teach avoidance or a lot of screaming, a lot of yelling. Just try to let them interact and see that it is, just another dog or could potentially be just off game. And most of the time, they overcome it or leave it alone all on their own. We're just there to kind of help the process a bit.
Can we go to a little bit of in-depth on developing a point of contact? Because that's really where you can eliminate the screaming and the yelling at your dog. And can you develop the point of contact with all dog breeds, or is it really focused to, a pointing breed?
No, it's all dogs. A Shih Tzu, you have to have a smaller lead to be able to build that point of contact. And the teaching is coming from the release. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, how do you develop it? Where does it start?
So the learning starts from the release. And I hope that makes some sense. But as you cue, the dog doesn't necessarily understand what it is you want. When you do get the desired behavior, if the desired behavior would be just to stand still, the pressure is completely turned off. So they're learning from the release, not necessarily the bump, 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 or the tap, tap, tap with the lead. The learning is coming from when that thing is turned off. So that, of course, then in their mind, it's like, oh, that was easy. If I'm still, you turn the lead off, and then the lead or the point of contact is not there to be, it's not there to be intimidating, or it's not there to be dominating. Mm-hmm. It's just more of a battle of wills, if you will. So it's a battle of wills. It's a patience game. It's who can outlast who to teach.
When you say the lead,
I hope that makes some sense.
This is one of those things where I'm sure this is why your seminars are so valuable, because you can demonstrate it versus us talking through it. But it's essentially, do you call it the wonder lead, right?
Yep. Wonder lead, command lead.
Okay. And essentially it's kind of, there's different variations that I've seen, but it's the slip, right? So as you pull, it tightens up. As you release, it loosens around the dog's neck. And that's where you develop that point of contact, right? So if your dog is walking and you want to stop, it tightens up. As soon as they stop and do what they're supposed to, then you release the pressure that you're talking about. And then at that point, you can take it steps further. And, what I use, and you probably do the same, Sonny, is, tap, tap is just a very subtle touch that they can feel. And that's to turn, right? And to hold it, pull it, where you apply the pressure, and it's to stop. And essentially that eventually transfers into the e-collar, which you apply those same tap, tap, or the constant pressure, and your command lead now goes from 2 feet to 50 feet to 100 feet to 100 yards to 500 yards, or however far you want. But the dog learns that they can do, their hunting. And as soon as that pressure, they stop. As if it's tap, 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 they're supposed to come back, right? And now you've eliminated a hoarse voice at the end of the field when you're out there running. And it's magic. It's like magic, Sonny. It's the most beautiful thing. I've hunted with a lot of guys that scream at their dogs all day. And I'll be honest, last year trying to teach my dog and working with her, there were days where I left the field hoarse too, but I'm seeing it now. And that's the beautiful thing. And people hear e-collars or shock collars and they think, oh, I'm just shocking my dog. Well, I've put that collar on. And my dog, on a number 2 on my Garmin remote, I can't feel it, but my dog can. And it's so subtle, but she feels the tap, tap, and she just comes right back. I don't have to say anything. People that don't know or understand dogs, they're like, wow, that's just magic. And I laugh and I think, you have no idea what I went through for 6 months to get to this point.
Sure. And it's it's all situational, so that the dog is keying on to what's happening. So if you bump and you're moving, well, that's just the situation is the dog looks for direction. When you're using the collar or you're using the lead, all that's really happening is you're referencing the spot. You're interrupting the thought process. Therefore, the dog looks for instruction. So now it's based on a situation of what's happening. If you're not moving, that dog is going to come to you. If you're going left or right, that dog is going to move left and right. And the To be real, that fair and efficiency with a lead is less is always more. The softer that you can touch, the better off you'll be. But I don't mess around with, say, a number 1, a number 2, a number 3, a number 4. I'm always trying to stay on a number 1. And then once they understand it, then we go to a correction that might be, and I'm talking about a lead right now, then that might be, like a number 3 or number 4. So it's going to make a pretty good statement, but they've already learned, the teaching has been, they know what to do. So going from a 1 to maybe a 3 or a 4, and then right back down to the 1. It's very important that you go right back down to just the absolute softest that you can touch them.
Is there a point that you feel people can over direct or over command or give too many commands to your dog when you're out there hunting?
Yes. For me, it's about, to start with, don't be giving command that you can't reinforce. So don't put yourself or don't put the animal in a situation where you're going to give a command where you can't follow through. And then I'm real big on allowing the dog to make decisions. I love them to think on their own and make decisions. So once they're efficient, I use almost no voice commands because they are efficient and they know exactly what to do based on what the situation is. And then too many commands just will desensitize everything. Then, they just won't listen to anything because they've just heard it so much it means nothing to them.
So all this conversation, we've been talking for probably 45 minutes and we haven't said one word yet about a bird, introducing a bird, right? And
sure,
I think you agree with this, that to really get a good dog that you're enjoying being with and hunting with, they have to be obedient. So it all comes down to the foundation. I think what we should do is, we could get into, if you're okay with it, another conversation or multiple conversations about how to introduce birds or, guns into the situation. I mean, there's so many layers to the training of a dog, but right now, it all goes to the foundation. So what are you working on the programs that you have coming up? You said that you've got dogs coming in tomorrow. What does that mean for you?
We got baby puppies that have been dropped off here over the last couple of days. They're probably, I'm going to say, 8 weeks old. So we're doing bird introductions and puppy developments on those dogs. There's older dogs that are coming in that have never had a puppy development that will do the same exact thing with those 7, 8 month old dogs as we will with the 7 or 8, 9 week old dogs. So it's about exposing them to birds. And then there's some puppies that we've had in Texas or dogs that might have been worked last fall that have had a bird introduction. Their instincts are all, they're turned on, their prey drive is turned on, and then we'll be working with their foundation. So for me, it's important. They have to have a bird introduction before we start the foundation. So they have to have that desire to want to, catch it, kill it, and eat it. That's a big deal. They have to have that stuff turned on. They have to have purpose. They have to have a turn on switch to know that when they're cut loose, that they are to search and to try to find game. That's where it goes back to that rope you're talking about. It's so easy to reel them in, but it is so hard to push them out. So that bird introduction, if it's done properly, by the time you're done, you can't catch them anymore. So when my clientele calls me, or you would have called me last year with that dog that's running off on you, that just makes me smile because that gives me something to work with. Now, I know it frustrates the daylights out of you, but for me, that makes my job so much easier because the dog actually wants to do something. So that's awesome when they do want to go. And then we build their foundation. And it doesn't, they enjoy it. I really do think that they do. It's not about the bird. It's about working and building that foundation and getting those points of contact built. And then from there, we go back to the bird work. But now the bird work is a little more controlled. We're starting to teach, some manners, if you will. And then they'll be coming up on their first year as a legitimate bird dog with the foundation.
If somebody, let's say I got a puppy and I was scheduled to bring it out to your place, how long do you have your hands on that dog before you send it back home?
The baby puppies that we have here right now, they're probably, I'm going to say, somewhere between maybe 10 and 14 weeks old, we'll just spend a couple weeks with those puppies. And what we're doing throughout those couple weeks is exposure. Exposure to the kennel, exposure to the to the chain, exposure to the truck, exposure to the field, and then of course a lot of exposure with birds. It's very bird intense. They're interacting with birds every single day. They're run individually, and then they're also run as a group. So their instincts, the pack instincts, kick in. But then of course we don't want them to be too reliant on their litter mates or their the puppies of their age, so that we run them independently to start to work on just that, their independence. So there's a lot of structure, lots of stuff going on. And then their owner will come pick them up, and we spend, a lot of time with the owners. Sometimes it might be half of a day. It's based on just how much you guys are wanting, to get. Mm-hmm. I'll stay here till it's dark with trying to help. So then we send you guys home with a bunch of homework with those baby puppies. And what we're really trying to accomplish there is to help you get the puppy going in a good, healthy direction. You do your work, which most of it really is your work. There's not much really that I'm doing on my end besides offering up opportunity. The real work is coming from you guys, from the owner. Mm-hmm. And then as that dog hits 6-7 months, or they call with, I can't catch him anymore, he won't listen, well, then we'll get them back in. And then that's when we'll build the foundation. And then those puppies will go into this bird season as a puppy, but it has a foundation so that we can, catch them and stop them and control them.
I've had some people reach out to me because, I've talked openly about my experiences with Daisy and this bulldog that wants to run big, insane prey drive. I've had other people reach out to me and they're like, I don't know if I'm going to be able to keep my dog. I don't know that I can take this stress anymore. My dog keeps running away. Everywhere we go, it's just, I'm constantly worried that my dog is just going to bolt. And I'm like, well, how old? And we talk a bit about it. But, it might be a 2-year-old, 3-year-old dog. I can see mine now. She's 1, and that's completely gone from her. She's not running. All those horrible things, or not horrible, but those, she didn't know the boundaries. I think we said this earlier in the conversation, but it's not too late to work with that dog, right?
Absolutely. I would say probably 90% of our clients that come here with what it is you just explained. We don't know if we can keep this dog. This is not what we signed up for. Things are not working. Yeah. I would say that we probably, it's got to be at least 90% where it's never really a dog issue. It's a human issue. And if the human will do their part, there's 100% success rate. It's just cool. It's just not that hard. It's just simply the human does not understand what the dog is saying. And as I work with people, the one thing that just always comes back is that nobody's ever explained it to me like this before. I never knew this before. So once we give them just a little bit of knowledge, the dogs almost instantly respond.
Yeah, so it's a lot of fun. It's rewarding.
A lot of fun.
Yeah,
yes.
I was going to say it's very rewarding to see the effort go in. And I'll be honest, I know a lot of people that drop their dog off and the dog comes back and trained and this obedience and stuff, but to do it yourself, and you see this all the time, I've seen it with my dog, it's totally doable. But it really comes down to the knowledge, right? You have all this knowledge, Sonny. I'm fortunate that I have a friend that has so much wisdom, George Lyle, that would share that with me and help walk me through and understand what's going on through my dog's mind, that I can do this together. It's funny because I was out in Montana and we were on a hunt out there, and I met Custis Coleman, and Custis very well and work with him. And he laughed when my dog chased after a bird. And George was the one in command of Daisy at the time. He was just not, he didn't even bring a gun. He's like, I'm just going to work with her in this field. And that was the day Custis met Daisy. And he was laughing and he's like, if you don't want her, I will take her. And if you don't take her, Sonny will take her. Yes, exactly. You have a dog that some of the best trainers in the country would love to have. And I was like, that's great. I've heard this from, yes, wonderful, you guys. But she's currently a mile away, right now, and I
Yeah.
can't do anything about her. But so, as you know, this conversation we've just had right now, you and Custis are actually working on videos. I had him as a guest on probably 2 or 3, I don't remember, 4 months ago. But he told me that day, and I didn't know it, but he was working on what's called the Upland Academy, which is a training series using all of the Huntsmith silent command system and taking it from start to finish, but putting it into a video format. So how involved with that are you with working with him, and where does that stand right now?
Very involved. I do believe the next date he's coming back out will be in May. He was just here, actually. George and Custis were here just a couple weeks ago. We were working on. We were just getting it rolling. So very involved, very excited. I have not been this excited about something for quite a while, because I really do think with what he is putting together, that the human, today's client, will be able to literally break it down, step by step, clip by clip, video by video, and really, really, really be able to work their own dog to its full potential. And that is the part that excites me, is working the animal to its full potential. So I don't care what the breed, it doesn't matter. Not all dogs have, the same potential, but if it's a Shih Tzu, let's work it to its full potential. If it's an English Pointer or an English Setter, it doesn't matter the breed. It's working it to its full potential. That's always been real important to me. And with what we're trying to do, that's going to be possible for just the general public to take their time at their pace and work their animal to its full potential. And ultimately what that really ends up, what happens with that is the animal gets quality of life. It gets peace. Peace is a real big thing for me to try to express to my clientele that their dogs have. And I don't care, how many days a year they hunt. I don't care if they hunt at all or if they hunt, 60 to 80 days a year. The dog has to have a sense of peace. It's got to have a sense of just quality of life. Without anxiety and without all this frustration, so that's a big deal. And I believe with what we're working on, that's going to be accomplished. So it's very, very exciting.
Well, I'm looking forward to seeing the videos. I just talked to Custis the other day. He's excited about where they're at. And so the Upland Academy will be live online in, did you say June? Early June? Is that what he's aiming for? So just a few weeks away?
Yes, I believe so.
Excellent. Well, I know there's just going to be an incredible amount of information and value to anybody. It just takes the time to watch it, listen to it, learn it, repeat it with your dog, and you will see the results. And obviously, Sonny, I can't thank you enough for sharing your wisdom with me, with everybody here today. I know we talked about foundation today, and there's a lot more to talk about. I would love to have you back on and dig into some other aspects of teaching the dog and working with them and birds and just getting into those details. In the meantime, Hay Creek Kennel, people can go do a search there to learn more about your operation. Top-notch, first class in every way. Everybody that like I said at the beginning of the show, everybody that I've talked to that's worked with you has had nothing but great things to say. And hopefully people took quite a bit out of this conversation. Do you have any final thoughts as people head into the summer months? A lot of times I know people take training off during the summer, but this to me seems like the time to work with them, right?
Yep, absolutely. That just going back to, if you're going to spend time with them, try to teach them something. That's so important. Just continue to teach, because the more they learn, the more their confidence is built, and they feel a sense of satisfaction, a sense of accomplishment. They feel good by being taught. And it the simplest of simple, jumping in the truck, jumping out of the truck. Just look for instruction. Just be open for instruction. That's so important. So I greatly appreciate all your time and your effort here.
Thanks, Sonny. We appreciate it a lot more than you. But I hope that everything is a success as you start up another season at your kennel, and we will definitely be in touch again soon. And once again, thank you to Federal Premium Ammunition and Onyx Hunt for helping us to make this show possible. Be sure to download the Onyx Hunt app before your next hunting adventure to find out why it's one of the most valuable hunting tools available today. We'll be back next week with another episode of the Flush Podcast. I'm Travis Frank, reminding you to take the time to introduce someone new to the field.